Have you ever tried really hard to do something but just weren't very good at it? Maybe it was singing in the shower or hitting a baseball. Well, today's story is about a little fox who had this problem too. Once upon a time, deep in an enchanted forest, there lived a little fox named Finn. Now, Finn was just an ordinary fox, except for one thing. You see, every night the forest animals would make music together. The owls would hoot, the crickets would chirp, the frogs would ribbit, and the foxes would howl. All of the foxes, that is, except Finn. You see, Finn couldn't howl. Whenever he tried, instead of a big, strong howl, all that came out was a little squeak. Yip. Now, normally, Finn didn't mind being a little different. In fact, he loved being different. He just wished he could figure out how to... So every night before bed, after saying goodnight to his mom and dad, Finn would go out into the forest and practice howling. First, he'd take a big deep breath and then let out a little squeak. Yip. Then he'd try a longer breath with a slightly longer sound. Yip, yip. Sometimes he'd even get a little higher. Yip, 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 yip. But no matter how much he practiced, all he got was a lot of yips and never a single howl. And the other foxes, well, they didn't find this very funny. Every night they'd gather in the meadow and howl and sing and play. And every night they'd laugh at poor little Finn as he tried his best to join in. After a while, Finn started to feel pretty bad. He loved making music with the other forest animals, but they just didn't want him to. So Finn stopped practicing in the meadow and started practicing in secret. But this made Finn sad. He really wanted to be part of the group. And when you spend all your time practicing alone, well, you start to feel a little lonely. One day, feeling extra lonely and a little blue, Finn decided to wander into the deepest part of the forest. There were tall trees everywhere, and the sunlight barely made it to the ground. As Finn walked along, he heard a tiny cry. At first, he thought it might be a little field mouse or maybe a baby bird. He couldn't quite tell. So he followed the sound until he saw a small bush with leaves like feathers. And underneath the bush was the cutest little bird with a hurt wing. "Oh my," said Finn. "You can't fly with a broken wing. You'll never find food. And it's almost winter. What will you do?" The little bird looked up with teary eyes and said, "I don't know. I tried to fly home, but I only made it halfway. I'm too scared to try again." "Well, you don't have to worry about that," said Finn. "I'll take care of you." The little bird asked. "Really? You'd do that for me? But how?" Finn thought for a moment. Flying wasn't his talent, but carrying things over his shoulder was. So, gently lifting the bird onto his back, Finn set off for home. As he walked, he thought about the bird. Surely she'd be too cold in this weather without her feathers. So Finn took off his red scarf, which was nice and thick, and wrapped it around the bird to keep her warm. As they walked, Finn passed by the grumpy badger who was digging a hole. "Hey, slow down," yelled the badger. "What are you doing? Walking so slowly? Hurry up." But Finn just kept walking slowly, thinking about the bird. After a while, they came across a shallow stream, and to cross it, they needed to use a fallen log as a bridge. But this log was very long, and Finn was afraid the bird would fall off his back. So he picked her up in his paws and started to carry her like a baby. He walked very carefully over the log, and when they reached the other side, he put her back on his back. Finally, they reached Finn's house, where his mom and dad were waiting for him. They'd seen him leave that morning and were wondering how his big adventure was going. When they saw the bird, they both gasped. "Oh my goodness," said Finn's mom. "We need to help her." So she took the bird inside to warm her up near the fire. While Finn's dad went outside to look for food, soon he was back with a plate full of berries and nuts. "Here," he said, This should help you get your strength back. After eating, the bird felt stronger. So taking a deep breath, she opened her wings and flapped them. Thank you, she said to Finn. You really saved me? How can I ever repay you? Just then, Finn's mom came over. You don't need to repay him, she said. It's always good to help those in need. Then she turned to Finn and said, That's right. Being brave isn't about how big your paws are or how sharp your teeth are. Being brave is about helping others, even if they're different from you. At that moment, a wise old owl flew in through the window. Being brave isn't about how big your paws are or how sharp your teeth are. Being brave is about helping others, even if they're different from you. He'd been watching Finn all day and was very impressed by what he'd seen. Then turning to the bird, the owl said, You're lucky you found such a brave fox. Most foxes would have been scared to help you because you were different, but Finn didn't care about that. He helped you anyway. Then the owl turned to Finn and said, Finn, sometimes being different isn't a bad thing. In fact, it can be a good thing. Being different means you can help others in different ways. You're a special fox, Finn, and someday you'll do special things. From that day on, Finn wasn't so worried about not being able to howl. Sure, it would have been nice to make music with the other foxes, but he knew now that being brave wasn't about howling, and he was a brave fox, even if he was a little different. In fact, one night, not long after the bird had flown home, Finn was just hanging out in the forest when he heard a loud crash. Startled, he quickly climbed up a nearby tree. And when he looked down, he saw a family of rabbits running around in circles, yelling, Run, run. The Hatter is loose. The Hatter is loose. For anyone who doesn't know, the Hatter is a mean old badger who lives in a tree and chases rabbits for fun. And hearing that he was loose, Finn knew he had to do something. So taking a big deep breath, he jumped from tree to tree, trying to get ahead of the Hatter. Now, Finn was fast, but the Hatter was faster, and soon the badger spotted Finn. Oh, what's this? He yelled, A little fox who thinks he's brave. Well, I'll show you what bravery really is. Then the Hatter jumped off his branch and charged at Finn. Startled, Finn quickly ran away. Now, usually when animals run from the Hatter, he catches them and gives them a big scratch. But not tonight. Tonight, Finn led the Hatter away from the rabbits and deeper into the forest. The Hatter was confused. Usually animals run away from him right away, but this little fox kept running and running until finally, exhausted, the Hatter flopped down on a log and fell asleep. When the sun came up, the rabbits quietly crept out of their hiding places, and when they saw the sleeping Hatter, they cheered. Then one of the rabbits came over to Finn and said, You saved us, Finn. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And from that day on, Finn wasn't just a brave fox. He was a hero. All the forest animals, including the foxes, praised him for his bravery. And as for Finn, well, he was happy to be a hero. But most of all, he was happy to be himself. So the next time you feel bad about yourself, just remember, you don't have to be like anyone else. You just have to be yourself. And sometimes that's all you need to be a hero. And that's all for our story today. If you liked this story, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe.